If you open your wallet right now, you are carrying a loaded weapon pointed directly at your own future. The banking system has completely gamified your financial life. They have convinced you that carrying multiple credit cards, obsessing over your credit score, and financing your groceries with buy now, pay later apps is just the normal way to survive. They tell you to play the game for the airline miles and the cashback points, but it is a trap. In 2026, credit card debt has hit catastrophic all-time highs, and the average interest rate is sitting at a suffocating 24%. The banks are farming the middle class for yield. But it wasn't always like this. If we rewind to the 1990s, the American middle class operated on a completely different financial baseline. They survived, bought houses, and built wealth without relying on plastic to fund their daily existence. Today we're going to look at the lost psychology of the 1990s cash economy. We're going to expose the buy now, pay later illusion that is keeping you broke today. Most importantly, I am going to show you how the smartest hustlers in 2026 are weaponizing the 90s cash playbook. I will give you the exact execution strategy to use physical cash, not to save pennies, but to execute brutal negotiations and buy income-producing assets for 50 cents on the dollar. To understand the hustle, you have to understand how a 1990s American actually interacted with money. In the 90s, money was physical. It was visceral. When you got paid, you literally cashed a check and held paper bills. If a family wanted to buy a new refrigerator or a television, they didn't swipe a piece of plastic and figure out the math next month. They used a lost concept called Layaway. You went to Sears, picked out the TV, and the store held it in the back room while you paid it off in physical cash over 8 weeks. You didn't get the dopamine hit of taking the item home until the labor was actually complete. More importantly, the 90s economy ran on the envelope system. Families literally divided their physical cash into envelopes labeled groceries, gas, and rent. This created a psychological barrier called payment pain. Neurologically, handing over a physical $100 bill registers in the human brain similarly to physical pain. It hurts to part with the asset. That pain was a built-in defense mechanism. It stopped you from buying things you didn't actually need, and when you felt the weight of your labor leaving your hands. Now, look at the absolute financial slaughterhouse of 2026. The banks and tech companies realized that if they removed the payment pain, you would spend endlessly. They digitized your money. They gave you Apple Pay, Klarna, and Affirm. When you double-click the side of your iPhone to pay for a $100 pair of shoes, your brain registers zero pain. It feels like a video game. You aren't exchanging your labor. You're just moving pixels on a screen. They replaced the discipline of 90s layaway with buy now, pay later. They give you the dopamine hit of the shoes today, but they attach a bleeding financial liability to your future labor. They gamified it with points. They tell you that if you put everything on a travel card, you're beating the system because you get a free flight to Cancun every 2 years. What they don't tell you is that studies show consumers spend up to 20% more when using credit instead of cash. You spend an extra $3,000 this year on impulse buys just to get a $300 plane ticket. The bank is not your friend. The bank is the casino, and the house always wins. If you want to beat a rigged system, you have to stop playing their game. The people building wealth today have reverted to the 90s physical baseline. They do not finance their existence. They build what I call the 90s war chest. You must immediately detach your daily spending from your credit lines. You revert to physical cash or a strict zero balance debit strategy for all consumable goods, groceries, gas, entertainment. You reintroduce the payment pain into your life. By simply turning off the digital tap, the average person immediately frees up 15 to 20% of their monthly income that was previously bleeding out to impulse buys and interest payments. But you don't take that extra cash and put it in a savings account to rot. That is what poor people do. You take that retained capital and you build a liquid war chest. Because in an economy where everyone is choked out by debt, the guy holding actual liquid cash has infinite leverage. Here's how you transition from playing defense to playing pure, aggressive offense. Right now, the secondary market is flooded with desperate people. The guys who finance $60,000 trucks, $10,000 commercial lawnmowers, or massive tool sets on high-interest credit cards are defaulting. They are staring at repossession. They do not have time to wait for a buyer to secure bank financing. They need a bailout, and they need it today. This is where you execute the cash leverage arbitrage. You use your 90s war chest to acquire distressed, income-producing assets for pennies on the dollar. Here's the exact 3-step execution protocol. Step 1. The liquidity squeeze. You scour Facebook Marketplace, local commercial auctions, and Craigslist for what I call desperation listings. Look for key phrases like must sell this weekend, moving, or need gone today. You're looking for assets that can immediately make you money. A commercial pressure washer, a professional paint sprayer, a cargo trailer, or high-end welding equipment. Step 2, the physical anchor. You do not negotiate over text message. If a guy is asking $3,000 for a commercial cargo trailer, you message him and say, I am a serious buyer. I can be there in 30 minutes. You drive to the location. You inspect the asset. And then you introduce the 90s physical psychology. You do not offer him Venmo. You pull out a physical stack of $100 bills. Say, $1,800. You fan it out slightly and you look him in the eye. I have $1,800 in cold, hard cash right now. No banks, no waiting, no digital holds. You can put this in your pocket today and your problem is solved. In a digital economy, the sight and physical presence of actual cash is a psychological weapon. It triggers a primal response. Over 60% of the time, the desperate seller will take the massive loss simply to secure the immediate liquidity. Step 3, the asset deployment. You just bought a $3,000 asset for $1,800, but you do not stop there. You are a hustler, not a hoarder. You immediately deploy that asset. If you bought a commercial cargo trailer, you rent it out to local contractors for $100 a day. If you bought a professional paint sprayer, you start a weekend side business painting local fences. You used 90s cash discipline to build a war chest. You use the physical cash to execute a brutal discount on an asset. And you use the asset to generate cash flow that completely replaces your 9-to-5 income. The system wants you poor, predictable, and fully dependent on their plastic cards. They want you financing your life so they can farm your labor for interest payments. The 1990s generation understood something that we have completely forgotten. If you cannot buy it in cash, you cannot afford it. Stop playing the bank's game. Stop chasing airline miles while your net worth bleeds out. Cut the plastic cord, reintroduce the pain of payment, and build your liquid war chest. Because when the digital economy crashes, the guy holding the paper dictates the rules.